Thanks for joining me for episode 42 of the Educational Duct Tape Podcast. Before we get into what we'll be talking about today, I want to give a shout out to those of you supporting the Black Lives Matter movement and actively speaking out against racism. I am your ally, I support you, and I believe wholeheartedly in your mission to eradicate racism, white supremacy, and unfair treatment from our government and some members of law enforcement. I am an anti-racist, and I'm working to grow and getting better at being anti-racist for my students, for my colleagues, and for my friends, and as a role model for my own children. I went back and forth on whether it was appropriate to release an episode during this time of unrest and pain, but finally decided to move forward with it. For those of you who are not ready to listen to this, it'll be here for you when you are ready. For those of you who need a temporary mental escape from the pain that we're all feeling, it's here for you now. I am psyched to be joined by Dr. Sarah Thomas today. Sarah and I will be talking about how you could build an online PLN or professional learning network that you can learn from and get help from whenever you need it. Let's get to the show.
Hi, I'm Dr. Greg Owens from the Reimagine Schools podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to right now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to the Educational Duct Tape Podcast with Jake Miller.
Welcome in, duct tapers. Thanks for joining me today. Thanks for being awesome. Thanks for the hard work that you've put in this school year. And thanks for being a lifelong learner and tuning into this podcast to learn and have some fun. For the newbies out there, my name is Jake, and I'm here to talk to you about duct tape and educational technology and how the two things go together to create an EdTech integration mindset that I think can help you in your classrooms and learning environments. First, though, here's a quick word from today's sponsor. As teachers, we know that when kids are truly engaged and excited about learning, it's the best feeling in the world. And in this new remote learning, that can feel harder to achieve than ever before. Pear Deck is here to help you. With Pear Deck, you can easily transform your presentations into engaging, active lessons using Pear Deck formative assessments and questions, and send them straight to student devices so they can participate in real time. Ready to get started? Pear Deck is offering educators free premium access and free webinars every day so that you can get going right away. Plus, they've teamed up with myself and other educators to offer special edition webinars to share insight from a variety of educator perspectives. Save your seat at their next webinar today. Head to peardeck.com/learn-pair-deck. That's peardeck.com/learn-pair-deck to register. I am so excited to be sharing an interview with Dr. Sarah Thomas with you today. Sarah is someone that I followed for years, and when I discovered that she was a listener to the show, I was blown away. So I just had to get her on for an interview. I am so proud to have her on the show today to share some of her knowledge. My chat with Sarah was recorded on March 8th, about 3 days before our American schools really started shutting down for the pandemic. I think, though, this is a perfect time for airing it as we're starting off our summers and looking ahead to our school year of uncertainty. Having a PLN that you can learn from, grow from, and look to for support this summer will be essential, and Sarah has some great ideas for doing just that. Before I get to it, though, there's some other stuff that I need to talk about. You know what, Soapbox? You're right. I do think that I need you for this. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me just grab my soapbox from over here. Yeah. There we go. That's perfect. Climb up on there. I've been very intentional about not talking politics on any of the platforms that I have. And so over the last few years, I thought I shouldn't talk about events of police brutality either, or racism. That I was wrong. Murders at the hands of law enforcement officers is not politics. Racism is not politics. Bigotry is not politics. This is about human life. Human life is not politics. Now, I know that it is my duty to talk about it. My duty as a person with a platform, with ears that are listening. My duty as an educator, as a parent, as a human. Over the last few weeks, I have felt great sadness for what happened to George Floyd, Christian Cooper, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and too many other black men and women to list. But then, unlike many Americans, I get to move on from that sadness and not feel fear. I don't have to be afraid for my life or the lives of my wife or children. I get to go for a walk without worrying that people might see me as a threat. This morning, I got to send my kids off on a bike ride without worrying how community members or police officers may see them or how they might interpret their actions. I have a privilege as a white man and as a white father. I know that many of my listeners have that same privilege, but I also know that some of my listeners do not. And for those that do not, I want you to know I support you. I value you. I care about you. If you share, I will listen. If you ask for help, I'll be there. Speaking of caring and listening, I used to think that was enough. I assumed that most people cared and were listening as well. And so I felt like I didn't need to say that much because all the other people that were listening already cared and were already listening to other voices. But it's clear that that's not always the case. And so we must let those around us know that these crimes and these injustices are unacceptable, that we have a long way to go as a society, and that we believe that Black lives matter. Not just that they matter, but that they matter as much as white lives. And that we are ready to go through this long road that we need to go on. And if you don't agree, or you're more disturbed by looting than you are by a human being unjustly killed by a police officer, then you can go find another podcast to listen to. If you don't value every human life, turn this podcast off. You know what? Hold on. Don't turn it off yet. If you're listening, that means you're an educator. And if you're an educator and you have these biases, if you're an educator and you're not listening to the voices of our nation's Black citizens and other Americans of color, then you have work to do. You have work to do for your students. As Dr. Maya Angelou said, when you know better, do better. If this has unearthed biases in your mind and in your heart, then you've got work to do. I don't think that you have to be ashamed that they're there, because oftentimes those biases are nurture, not nature. They're from our environment, not from ourselves. From your environment, not from you. So you don't have to be ashamed if bias is there, but you should be ashamed if you're not willing to do the work to get it out of there. It's something that I had to work on as a young educator. I'm not embarrassed to admit that I had biases that I needed to clear out of myself, because I'm proud that I did work on it. I'm proud that when I knew better, I did better. I'm proud that when I identified biases in myself that I inherited from my environment, when I identified them, I worked on getting rid of them. When I knew better, I did better. And you know what? I'm not ashamed to admit that I have a road to go on myself as a person, as an anti-racist. I have identified that I have areas to grow in, to do even better at that. As long as we identify those areas where we can grow and get better, and as long as we go on the road to do better, we should be proud to admit that we're going to do it. And I'm proud to put this out in the world of educational podcasts. Racism is unacceptable in our society, but most importantly in our schools. And we as educators need to set an example for our colleagues and especially for our students. I hope you're up for that challenge and that hard work and that long road. And if you're not, you need to find another profession. Before we get to my chat with the awesome Dr. Sarah Thomas, there's a few things that I want to share with all of you. First up, we will follow this episode with a hashtag EduDuctTape Twitter chat, as we always do with full-length episodes. It'll take place next Wednesday, June 10th at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It'll be the last one of Season 2, and then we'll get back to the chats sometime in August. Next, there will be one more regular episode this season, and it'll be the Season 2 finale. If you remember from Season 1, this is where I share from you about things that you have done this school year as a result of things that you have heard here on Educational Duct Tape. Think back through the ideas that you heard from Stacey Roshan and Tony Vincent, Marcia Kish, Jornay Armand, Mike Mohammed, John Carippo, Dave Turnett, Sethi DeClerc, Dr. Sheldon Akins, Jared Cooney Horvath, Craig Clement, Manny Curiel, Andreas Johansson, Joe and Kristen Merrill, and Catlin Tucker. Think about all of the things that you heard in our mini episodes and in the remote learning episodes. All of the things that you learned in our Twitter chats. Identify something that made it into your practice, and then head to eduducttape.com/season2share. That's eduducttape.com/season, the number 2, and the words share, and then record a video. I'll take the audio from that recording and share it in the June 17th episode so that we can all celebrate your accomplishment, success, and growth. Again, the goal is to share something that you did in your classroom or school or your practice as an educator that came from something that you heard here on the podcast or took place in one of the podcast Twitter chats, and then record it on that Flipgrid link that I just shared there, eduducttape.com/season2share. Record it in a video, and then do that by June 15th. Again, June 15th, so that we can all hear about it on the June 17th episode. In between now and then, we'll have one mini episode, and then after June 17th, I will have 3 more mini episodes for you. After that, I will be shutting down the mini episode format indefinitely. I'm going to have a busy school year this coming year, so I'll be removing those episodes from my workload. We'll still have the every other week episode and the Twitter chats, but I'm going to be eliminating those every other week mini episodes next year. So we got 4 more coming up, 1 next week, and then 3 more in late June and early July. Lastly, before my interview with Sarah, I want to share about a podcast appearance that I recently did. When I was approached to be a guest on the Demystifying College Admissions podcast, I was a little uncertain since my normal audience is educators looking to learn more about EdTech, not students looking to get in the college of their dreams, or parents supporting their students as they apply for colleges, or even like high school guidance counselors supporting students in that process. That's not my normal audience. But when I checked out this podcast from Julie Kim, again, it's called Demystifying College Admissions, I realized that I really appreciated a lot of her advice for high school students and the adults that are working with them about how they can not only get into college, but be the best versions of themselves. It's not all about ACT scores and AP tests. It was about how they could grow themselves through passion projects and other initiatives to be the best versions of themselves. Here's a little bit about the podcast from Julie.
My name is Julie Kim, and I'm the host of Demystifying College Admissions. Look, I've been there before. Navigating through the college admission process is overwhelming, confusing, and ultimately stressful. This podcast is designed to inspire high school students to identify their passions, learn all about the most updated college admission strategies with guests and experts from all industries. And the best part is we'll also dive into mental health so that this podcast will be a healthy, safe, and vulnerable space for all teens and parents out there. Let's get started.
So yeah, that's the Demystifying College Admissions podcast. I'm super honored that I was a guest in a recent episode. I'll put the link in the show notes, or you can just look for them in your podcast app if you're interested in hearing me talk about some passion projects and some tech tools for doing that, and how students can kind of survive the remote learning situation and become as successful as possible in that situation and really learn and grow from that experience. But now, speaking of learning and growing, it is time to welcome my guest today, which is Dr. Sarah Thomas.
Today's guest.
All right, today my guest is Dr. Sarah Thomas. Sarah is a regional technology coordinator and the founder of EduMatch. She has spoken and presented internationally and is also an affiliate professor at Loyola University in Maryland. Sarah is a co-author of the ISTE series Closing the Gap, but where I know her the best from is from Twitter, where she is at Sarah with an H, D-A, teacher, Teechur, which I can barely say with a straight face, Sarah. You could also find her work on edumatch.org and edumatchpublishing.com. Sarah, welcome in. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Jake. This is awesome.
Yeah, so I've been following you on Twitter and your work on Twitter for years. And like when somebody first, you're in one of those sessions and they're like, these are the 10 people you have to follow on Twitter. And somebody's like, you got to follow this girl. Her name is Sarah Thomas. She's a PhD. It's Sarah Teacher. But it's not spelled teacher. It's spelled differently. So what's the genesis of that Twitter handle?
Oh, man. Okay, so if you rewind back to 2013, I was at the Common Ground Conference in Maryland.
Okay.
And I had a Twitter account. It was something like Want to Be a Runner or something like that, right? And on there, I would use it and interact with VH1 people like Flavor Flav, Brett Michaels, all of them. But I noticed they put up a hashtag and I was just like, I'm missing out on this great conversation. So I was just like, I just need to create a Twitter account. So the very first thing that popped into my head was to spell something phonetically. And that was for 2 reasons, because back then my students were, they were trying to turn in essays like in text speak. And I was just like, but I was just like, okay, I'm kind of inspired by that. But also because just like when you learn to write, then, you just kind of spell things phonetically. And I was doing a lot of work in terms of language acquisition. So that was kind of like a twofold reason. And
Nice.
So there it is. Yeah.
I always wondered, like, was Sarah the teacher spelled right gone, or was Sarah the teacher spelled right gone? That's an interesting story, that it was kind of a throwback to what your students were doing in class. What grade were you teaching at the time?
At the time, I was teaching middle school English.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, that's a time when they were definitely using the text speak and spelling like they're in a text. The DA for the was big around that time. I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm probably dating myself a little bit with that now, but it still works.
It's easy to remember, right? Like if you were somehow Sarah the teacher would be harder to remember than Sarah the teacher spelled the way it is.
Right. But sometimes I spell it wrong myself. Like the teacher part always gets me. The teacher, I'm always like,
did I put a UR at the end?
Right, UR, ER, yeah.
Are there 2 R's at the end?
Right, exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
So Sarah and I are recording. Today is March 8th. And today is the first day of daylight savings time when we're recording. So both of us noticed last night as we had a 9 a.m. interview scheduled together, we're like, oh, snap, that's not actually 9 a.m. That's going to feel like 8 a.m. We're like, what were we thinking?
Exactly.
Well, we're both like, I'm good if you're good. And you're like, I'm good if you're good. Okay, here we go. Right?
Yes, absolutely. Let's do this.
Yes, exactly. And the reason is, like, Sarah, like I said, been following you for a long time. Love your work. Super excited about the work that you're doing with EduMatch too. So I wanted to make sure, like, I'm like, we got to do this interview because I want it to happen. I don't want to like say like, no, it's too early in the morning. Let's wait till a different time. So your work with EduMatch is huge. Can you tell us, the listeners, a little bit about what that is and what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So EduMatch is a global network of educators. We started up in September 2014, and it was totally random, totally organic. I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine, Rafrance Davis, on Voxer. Because what else do you do on a Friday night, right?
Right, that's what I do on a Friday night.
Right, exactly. So we were talking about gamification in math. And, she was saying something that reminded me of something that my cousin had said, who used to teach math in New York. And he was showing me his fantasy sports model. And, that reminded me of a mutual friend of ours, Chris Aviles. So I said, okay, you, my cousin Reggie, and Chris should all get together and have a conversation about gamification. And I was just like, wait a minute, we should do that more in education. So let me look and see what's out there. And, there were Twitter chats, there were Voxer groups, but there was nothing that was just like, hey, person A, me, person B, me, person C. So I was just like, all right, let me just start something up. So I started up this Twitter account with a very ugly logo. It was it was like the first thing I ever did in Google Draw. It was a heart with a lightning bolt through it. And from the beginning, everybody thought it was like a Match.com for teachers. I was just like, no.
Yeah, the heart was probably some misbranding there.
Right, absolutely. But they would see the ugly logo and they would ask, oh, what is this? So that gave me an opportunity to tell them about it. So our very first person, who signed up was in Australia. And so, I was just like, tell me a little bit about yourself. So he gave me like a short blurb. And so I looked on Cyberman's list and matched it up with different hashtags, started tweeting it out. Like every few hours, I would tweet out like something new and just hashtag it and say, give him a follow. And, at the end of the day, he was just like, oh yeah, I met all these people. And I was just like, cool. So he was just like, keep it going. I was like, I will. So at that point, I just set up a Google form to make it more official and streamlined and put it on a site. People joined, they brought their ideas. Someone suggested we do a Voxer group. Someone suggested we do a podcast, a Twitter chat, an EdCamp, and then just things, people kept on bringing their ideas. The publishing came out of the Voxer group when, we were asking about like bucket list stuff. What do you want to do before you retire?
Everybody's like, I want to write a book.
Exactly. So
right.
In a nutshell, that's kind of where that came from. We started off with a free crowdsource book where people submitted chapters, and then eventually people started asking about doing their solo books. And that's where we are now.
That's amazing. Congrats on that growth. And then like 5 short years or 6 short years, all that happening.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. It's been a really cool ride. I'm looking forward to seeing what's ahead.
That's really cool. And it all came from like a problem solving idea, right? Where you were trying to match people up and just the idea of understanding how huge it is for people to find those connections, to make those connections out there, especially when, some people say, I think it's Todd Whitaker that says something like great teachers are lonely or something to that effect, because oftentimes they have no like-minded educators in their building or few like-minded educators in their building, or or they do, but they're isolated from them. And so you kind of created this way to track down these other people out there that they can communicate with. And that's huge for growth, to have those people you can talk to about stuff like that.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. And I love the fact that like people spread the word and they brought their friends in. So it became like this snowball thing, you know, and it was just like Diddy said, tell your friends to get with my friends and we can all be friends. So that's kind of how we've grown over the years.
I was listening to that song the other day.
Oh, really? Yeah.
That's on my workout mix. I was working out and that song came on.
That's a great song. That is a great song. R.I.P. Notorious Big. Yes.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's my early 90s roots. That was my teenage years. I was jamming some B.I.G. for sure.
Yeah, same here. I feel you on that.
Nice. So even though we're already talking about 90s hip hop and joking around, and we've been silly already, we're gonna get into a game anyhow. Does that sound okay?
Oh, that sounds great. Let's do it.
2 truths and 1 lie.
Nice. Okay, so we're going to start with a game of 2 truths and 1 lie. So you're going to give me 3 statements. 2 are going to be true. 1 is going to be a lie. I always make sure people understand the name 2 truths and 1 lie. It's not confusing. And then I will try to guess the one that's a lie. This is where it gets confusing, because then I always get confused because I guess wrong and then I forget to figure out what the lie is, and I'm just a hot mess. But we'll try it out. So you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, go for it whenever you're ready.
Okay, so my 2 truths and a lie.
Okay.
The very
I thought you were going to say my 2 truths. I was going to be like, that's going to ruin the game if you just tell me.
Oh, yeah. No. I'll mix them up. I'm just trying to get the order right in my head.
Maybe you won't mix them up. I don't know. Maybe you're jinxing me here. Who knows?
Right? Mind games. Yeah. All right. So let's see. My 2 truths and a lie. So the first statement is that I once jumped out of a plane.
Okay.
My second statement is that my favorite food is General Tso's chicken.
Okay.
And my third statement is that I have a motorcycle license, but I only rode a bike 2 days in my entire life.
That'd be kind of odd if you got the license and then decided to stop riding it. Like, I should not be on a motorcycle, and that's why I don't have a motorcycle license. I would definitely hurt myself and others if I was on a motorcycle. So I can understand like those first times riding it being like, I'm not going to ride anymore. But I'm doubting that you got the license in that situation. The General Tso's, that seems like an odd thing to bring up. And General Tso's is good as long as you like spicy food. So I think that would be a weird lie. I think the plane is your lie. No. I think, see here, I'm getting confused. I think the motorcycle license is your lie. I don't think you have a motorcycle license. I think you tried it and we're like, no, I'm not doing that.
Okay. So should I tell you the correct answer?
Yep.
Okay. The motorcycle license, for those of you who can't see, I'll just describe it. Holding it up right now. I do have a motorcycle license. So
nice.
The 2 days I rode the bike. Yeah. It was on the back of my phone. So yeah, the 2 days I rode the bike I took the class, and the first one was teaching you how to ride. The second one, you had to take the test. And those were the only 2 days I ever rode it. Like, I never bought a bike after that. So that was the truth.
Why? Why did you stop?
This is crazy, but on my 30th birthday, then I had an accident where it was crazy. I slipped and fell, and I got a concussion, and I was just like, I do not like this feeling, so I'm pretty much done. Like, I was just like, if I pick up a bike right now with no supervision, no one teaching me how to ride this thing, and I try to figure it out, I'm going to wind up right back here with more stitches. So let me just leave it alone. Yeah.
That was a wise decision, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, nothing precluding me from doing it in the future. I might get that midlife crisis and and go for it again. But let me see. I'll tell you the lie. The lie was actually the weird lie, the General Tso's chicken.
What? Where did that come from?
I've been a vegetarian for like 25 years. So
okay, now it makes sense.
Yeah,
yes, that's not your favorite food.
Right. Exactly.
Funny story. We got a poke bowls, which I think is a Chinese food thing, but my wife loves poke bowls, so we got poke bowls, and they gave me the wrong one, like somebody else's order, and it had tofu in it. And so I was like, well, I guess I've never tried tofu. I guess now's my time to try tofu. It was pretty gross. You eat tofu?
Really?
My wife was like, what does it taste like? I'm like, little sponges.
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious. Tofu will take on the flavor of whatever you cook it with. So, I mean, like the straight up tofu is pretty nasty. I agree with you there. Yeah. But General Tso's tofu is actually my favorite food because it takes on that. Yes. So.
Well, the sauce is the best part of General Tso's. So I guess maybe I should try it with tofu sometime.
There you go. Yeah. Definitely check that out.
Okay. So, but you did, I'm stealing your thunder here. You did jump out of a plane.
Did jump out of a plane once, and I would never do it again.
Yeah. So was that like a college thing? That was like everybody's like, let's go do it. And you're like, yeah, let's go do it.
It was part of that adventurous phase in my life, like that same phase where I got that motorcycle license, and I had plans to bungee jump, and it's going to sound ridiculous, but a hot tub took me out. Like a hot tub took me out of the whole thing. That's how I slipped and fell because, it was tile, so and it was about 4 feet off the ground. So a hot tub took me out of all of these grand aspirations for doing all kinds of things. But I had a phase that was a pretty fun run. I flew. I got like a logbook for flying a plane. Like I mean, I didn't really touch the controls. I just kind of sat there. It was like driver's ed. There were 2 sets of controls, but Groupon is pretty awesome.
So you went from planning on being a motorcycle rider and a person who jumps out of planes and a person who flies planes, and all because of a hot tub. You went away from all those plans.
Yes, the hot tub took me out. I guess I found out I wasn't Superwoman, and I was just like, oh, forget all of this. I'm good.
That hot tub may have saved your life.
It might have. Who knows? Thank you.
And you know what? It just redirected your aspirations to educational stuff, right?
Absolutely. Yes. It gave me some time to sit in the house.
Do you like that segue?
I love it.
Nice. Okay, so now that we've learned how hot tubs saved your life, Sarah, let's now talk about your new direction, right? Which was educational technology. So I'm going to ask you an educational duct tape question. Okay. And so for anybody out there who's never listened to the show, I should tell them what educational duct tape is. It's my goofy metaphor that educational technology is at its best when it's not the goal of the lesson or activity we're doing, but it's a tool that we're using to solve a problem or meet a goal, address a learning standard, whatever it might be. So we always start with a question that a teacher might have, and then we answer it with a way that technology might help. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
Awesome. So my question for you is, and this is an easy question for you because I know this is your area of expertise, or at least one of your areas of expertise. How can educators crowdsource solutions? So how can educators leverage and find a professional learning network or a personal learning network that can help crowdsource solutions to the problems they have? So it's kind of similar to what we're doing here, except they're getting lots of different answers. So I have this teacher question in my classroom. How can I find a lot of expertise for how I can address it?
Right. Absolutely. And the solution is to get connected. A lot of people are already on social media. They might be on Facebook, might be on Twitter, might be on whatever. Right. But wherever you go, then chances are that there are other educators there as well. So definitely crowdsourcing solutions and by asking questions, even blogging, I would say a few times when I got stuck, pardon the pun, but a few times when I got stuck, then, I'd blog about what we're doing with the challenges, and then I would tweet it out, put it on Facebook, whatever, and get all of these great responses back about, I've tried this. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? And it doesn't even have to be like that heavy a lift to blog about it. You could just, tweet it out there, put it out in the Twitterverse. But the thing is to build your network. One of my friends, Mandy Freilich, says, build your network before you need it. And that is so true. So getting to know people, connecting through Twitter chats, Voxer groups, Facebook groups, all different kinds of things. And just like how we build relationships with our students, then building those relationships with other educators and going beyond the surface level of just, hey, I teach this. Okay, bye. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, really like engaging in a deeper, more meaningful connection and getting to know people as people so that you can, when those really sticky situations arise, you can get down to the nitty gritty without, having to, go through all the formalities and not really have that base of trust there. Like when we have those questions that are especially sticky, when it comes to things that we have to be vulnerable and put ourselves on the line because our students sometimes need us to. So that would be Yeah, that would be my 2 cents on that. My 10 cents.
Yeah. 10 cents. Yeah. I get a whole time out of it. I love that quote from Mandy that you shared there, build your network before you need it, because oftentimes I'll see people out there on Twitter say like, hey, educators, I need help with this. How blah, blah, blah. What do I do in this situation? And they don't have, like, they're on Twitter, but they don't have a network of people to communicate with yet. So you do have to start building those relationships where people are connected to you to see your question, but also where people like know you and care enough to help. We're all willing to help, but we've got to build that network of people that are there for us before we need it. Oftentimes what happens is that you ask that question, one person who's connected maybe better than you or to other people than you sees it and they share it out there, and before you know it, you've got more input than you know what to do with, right? But that's the crowdsourcing part, because you want to hear more than one perspective on it to get some, to get a variety of perspectives on a situation, right?
Yeah, totally. And going to what you were saying about like kind of amplifying, then that's definitely like, once we have that network, then that is ideal, that we amplify one another, our successes, our questions, just helping people reach new people. And I know that pre-show we were chatting about a couple of tools such as Periscope, which folks can use to kind of, it's like a video tool that people can use to provide a glimpse into their world. I have to shout out my Periscope EDU crew. So Valerie Lewis is the glue behind that. There's some amazing individuals in there, but every month they talk about, a certain topic and they respond to the prompt. So that is a great community to be a part of. In addition, Voxer is a great tool. That it reminds me of like the Nextel phones, from the turn of the century, where it's like, chirp, chirp, where you at? I'm at the mall,
right.
Like put that walkie-talkie in it. It records, and you can have groups of up to 500 people. So there have been, several different Voxer groups that have been going on. And we also have been doing EdCamp Voice, which has been held on Voxer. So we do that like every year. And we just did our 7th or 8th in December. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So I use Voxer, and I love that it's the layout of how it works is neat. So I'm in a few different like group discussions in Voxer, and let's say there's 10 different people in there. And 5 of them respond to a prompt or a question that somebody put out there and kind of go back and forth on it. I don't have to listen as it's happening. I can go and listen later, or I think you have to have the paid plan to listen live as they're recording the message, right?
I think it works. I'm not 100% sure, so I would have to check on that.
Right.
Yeah,
but regardless, either while they're recording it or right after they record it, I have access to it. But I find that I'll listen like once every day or two, and there might be a backlog of a couple messages. But what I think is cool is I click play on like the oldest message in that thread that I haven't heard, and then it plays them all in order right down through them. And I could pump up the speed, and I find actually I could put it up to 4 times speed and still get the meaning out of it, right? Depending on who's talking. Like if it's Jen Giffen, I don't know if you listen to Jen's podcast, but Jen like already is talking at 2 times speed. So I don't think I'd put Jen at 4 times speed. But regardless, I could turn the speed up or down and hear it kind of all in order. And like I'll be like jotting down notes about what I want to say when I get to my response about my thoughts on all these different things people are sharing. But yeah, it's a really easy way. Like I'll have to do it like taking the dog for a walk or in the car. I'll be like, okay, I've got a 10-minute drive to go pick up the pizza for dinner or whatever it is. Like I'll hammer out these Voxer messages on my way over there.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love the idea of an EdCamp voice in there. So when you guys do that, do you have like separate rooms, or does rooms, I'm quote unquote, I'm using my air quotes, or is it just one big Vox group?
It's a different room. So we have like a Google Doc, and we just like hyperlink whatever rooms are taking place. And we do have one main room, but that's mostly just for like communication, like, oh, it's starting, oh, it ended, but most of the communication is within each room. And we have some that signed up the very first round, which was back in December 2015. And, for at one point we were doing them twice a year, but we have slowed back down to once a year. But yeah, there's some rooms that are still ongoing. So we tell folks, when it's over, feel free to keep it going. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So when's the next one?
Oh, I don't think we picked a date yet, but it's either going to be in July or December. Those are our 2 choices.
Either or.
Yeah.
Either summer or winter. Who knows?
Right.
We'll
Right. Absolutely.
with something like an EdCamp, like that's the perfect attitude for an EdCamp. Like it's an informal thing where you can learn a lot of formal information, but it doesn't have to be too, like, you have that flexibility to go, like, we don't have to book a place to have it. We don't have to do any of this stuff. It's all on your phone or on your computer. You just communicate. You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so is it just like when you do that EdCamp voice, is it just like a real EdCamp where, everybody's in that document? And you might say, okay, in this room, we're going to talk about differentiation. In this room, we might talk about using Google in the classroom. And in this room, we might talk about STEM. And then everybody picks one to go to. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah. So we have like our session board and, the links to the room. So they just kind of click to drop themselves in. So we have like the title of the room, the moderator, the link to the notes also, if they have like some notes, and they just kind of click, drop themselves in the room, and they can join as many as they want or as few as they want. So that's like another benefit to having it on Voxer, because it's asynchronous. So,
Right.
you don't have to have that fear of missing out. You could be in literally every room. So,
right.
Yeah.
And maybe you do one late. Yeah. You do one right then live, kind of while it's happening, and then hop into one later and see what you missed in that one.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. You don't have to ask your friend to take notes. You can go actually listen to the whole thing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about how you guys use Periscope too, because I used Periscope back when I was a STEM teacher, and we would take our kids, like we did the soapbox derby. Like, it wasn't called the soapbox derby, it was called like the gravity racing challenge. And so we had a team, they built a car, we went there, we competed. It was on a school day though. A lot of the parents like wished they could be there, but they couldn't because they had work. So I was like, well, I will live Periscope it, because this was right when Periscope was coming out. And I'm like, I need to try this tool out. So I would live Periscope every run down the hill, and like the wheel changes at the bottom of the hill that our crew is doing and stuff like that, so the parents could watch if they want. And then I kind of felt like Periscope was going to be huge.
Yeah.
And then it didn't get huge, but it stayed around. And then live video kind of outside of Periscope did become huge. And I think Periscope's problem almost was that everybody else started doing live video too. Like you said, everyone doing it on Instagram and on Facebook and on YouTube. And so it kind of like, it made for a wider array of different people doing it. But then last year, as I was preparing to go to ISTE, I started looking through all the presenters were and looking through all the tweets that were tagged with it. And I was like, what is this Pass the Scope EDU thing? Like, I keep seeing, what is this about? Like, is this about mouthwash or something? What's going on? And so I researched it, and I was like, oh, this is a PLN built through using Periscope. So can you give us a little lowdown of kind of how that works?
Yeah, totally. So Pass the Scope EDU, I remember the genesis of it. This was back in, I want to say 2016. I might have the year wrong, but I remember Valerie came into the EduMatch Voxer group, and she was saying, okay, there's this new tool out there, Periscope, and what if we were to use it to shift the narrative? Because in the news, they're always saying teachers this, teachers that, and it's always so negative. So what if we use it to tell our own stories? And there were about maybe 4 other people that were just like, yeah, let's, this sounds really cool. So I remember at that point, the Pass the Scope EDU group started, and there were 5 or 6 people. I don't want to start listing names because I'm going to inevitably mess it up. Yeah, but I know Valerie was definitely the glue behind the whole idea. And so really every month there was like a different theme. So they come up with their theme and people vote on it, and they have like different slots. So there's a spreadsheet where people can go and sign up and, say what time slot they want to do. It's in 15-minute chunks, but each scope is expected to be about 5 minutes-ish.
Okay.
So it's really cool. And then all day you kind of get to see people talking about the theme. Sometimes they bring their students in. It's really cool to watch, and so informative. And you have that live feedback. People are tuning in, watching. What was the thing we used to say? It was Tap Game Strong, where you would tap the screen and give as many hearts as you could.
Yeah.
But it was it's really been a powerful community, and so they started also doing conferences. So ISTE, they've been going to ISTE now for, I want to say 2 or 3 years, and just periscoping out sessions. And last year they actually had a partnership with ISTE to do this. So that was really, really cool to see that growth.
Nice.
Yeah, and they were like super active. They were everywhere, just interviewing people, doing sessions, recording folks. So it was really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's similar to kind of what you're saying with the EdCamp with Voxer, except now it's video instead of audio,
Right.
and now it's a little more formal. Where because you can't all be doing it at the same time, right? You kind of have to be a little more synchronous because they are tend to be live, right?
Right, exactly.
Now, after you do a Periscope, is that video? You can still watch it later, right?
Yeah.
It's still archived to watch.
Yeah, they used to have it only for 24 hours, but now I think you can watch it like forever, pretty much.
Nice. So you guys, well, not you, but Valerie and the rest of this Periscope EDU team, including yourself, when you run these kind of events through it, somebody can participate live. They could just kind of watch all of the things in the stream, or they could actually participate and lead one too. And then if they want to, then go back and watch them all later, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. I'll make sure in the show notes I put in links to, some of the information about Voxer and some of the information about Periscope so that people can, kind of connect and try these things out, or at least go in and maybe watch a video out of the Periscope EDU and see kind of what it's about. Because it's neat. I've watched some of them. It's really like a lot, at least the ones that I've seen are a lot like you're watching a live 5-minute presentation, or maybe somebody live recording a podcast. Often is the way some of them look, but it's live video and it's happening right then, and you're getting their kind of real thoughts about something.
Yeah, totally. And some of them make it like so professional looking. Like there's like that OBS plugin, and I'm not great at it, but oh my goodness, some of the people in there are like masters at it. I'm just like, whoa, this is crazy.
I was watching one time. I think I want to say I was watching Brian Smith.
Oh, yeah.
He must have been using OBS, which is for people who don't know what OBS is an open, it stands for open broadcasting system or something like that. So it's a freeware program that you could download to broadcast live to YouTube or whatever plugin. So he's using it for Periscope, and his setup was ridiculous. Like he made you could see I have a microphone on screen, Sarah, right now. That this is nothing compared to what Brian had in his setup in the video that I was watching. I was like, dude, it sounds amazing. You got people calling in live. Like, this is crazy.
Brian is off the hook. I love Brian.
Yep. Today's super secret code is motorcycle, just like Sarah's motorcycle license. So head to eduducttape.com/certificate and type in the code motorcycle along with selecting today's episode to get your certificate of listening, laughing, and learning. So tell me, this is kind of an unplanned question here. So these are some ideas for how educators can network and grow these ideas and ask our questions and crowdsource solutions. So we could do Voxer, we could do Periscope. We already know we could do Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. And I think a great thing to do is to let your students know that you're doing these things. Yeah. Like my kids, my own children know about these things that I do, whether it's on Twitter or with the podcast or things like that. And I make sure I tell them, like, I'm learning from these other people and they're learning from me. And when maybe I have a question or need help, I know these are people I can go to. And when they have a question or need help, they know they can come to me or come to any of these people. So it's a good example to give to students to show that we're doing it. But do you have any examples of how we can actually involve students and stuff like this?
Yeah, there are many ways to involve students. I want to say RIP to Google Plus, because I know that there was like a great community in there with like mystery, Skype's mystery, Zoom's mystery, right. Hangouts, whatever. But people are still doing them, and I think that those mystery sessions are amazing, where you can just kind of connect with another classroom. I know that Skype also has like a way to bring in, guest speakers. They have a sign up form there. One of the most impactful things that I ever did in the classroom was a cross-state, cross-grade level collaboration with a teacher in, I want to say Iowa. And I met her. Okay. I met her on Twitter. And so through Google tools like Docs and Slides, they did a collaborative presentation, an argumentative essay with the presentation to go with it on Slides. And these kids had never met each other. We did like a hangout at the beginning so that they could collaborate. And that was super cool. I know also there's the hashtag comments for kids on Twitter, where, you can connect and have your students' blogs go out to an authentic audience.
Oh, I've never heard that one.
Yeah.
So it's comments for kids, you said?
Yeah, comments, the number 4 kids. And
Nice.
I want to say we used this in school year 2015, so hopefully it's still going strong. But it was pretty amazing. We were able to connect with the class over in New Zealand at the time. So I mean, yeah, so it's pretty cool. Like there are so many different ways. My goodness, I have another one that's on the tip of my tongue right now. I can't get it out for some reason. But there's tons of ways that people are sharing on like social media. So, it's all out there.
Yeah, it's tricky right now in education where we're becoming, rightfully so, almost paranoid about student privacy and what things and the ways we connect our students and the apps that we connect our students with and stuff like that. And I think it's good that we're starting to be very mindful of that, but we're putting up a lot of barriers to stuff like this, which is in one part, it's a shame, but in one part we can understand why, and it's wise to do it. Yeah. So it's definitely something you have to go through your like administration or technology people before you go ahead and connect students with people elsewhere. Yeah. But like you said, mystery Skypes, mystery Google Hangouts are a great way to do it. You mentioned there was a Google Plus group for that. And I think if you still have an education account, you could still access it, just not from a Gmail account. Right. I'm not sure about that. And then it's easy with these other tools you're talking about, whether it's Periscope or Voxer or Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, to just say, hey, I teach 5th grade and we're doing a science project and I would love to connect with another class that's doing the same topic or something like that, and try to find somebody that way. And then Microsoft has their like Skype in the Classroom website, which I'll link in the show notes too. And that's a good way to connect. But lately I've been geeking out about Grid Pals. Have you done Grid Pals on Facebook before?
I remember that was like the one thing the thing that slipped my mind that came back to me as you were talking. But yeah, got it. Grid Pals. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, so Grid Pals, for anybody that's interested, there's a special website on Flipgrid. I'll put it in the show notes, but if you just search Flipgrid Grid Pals, you'll track it down. And it tells you how to set up kind of like your profile as a Flipgrid educator to say, I'm looking for connections. And you put in how you'd like to connect, whether it's through email or through Twitter or whatever it might be. And then you look for a teacher or other teachers look for you, and you end up connecting your class to have pen pals, but in Flipgrid. So they're Grid Pals. And you and that teacher can kind of choose how you're going to use that. Is it just to introduce yourself and chat, or is there a special goal? Like, is it kind of like we're talking about here where we're crowdsourcing solutions? Like, are they actually talking about something they're trying to achieve, or are they just talking? But it's a great tool. And we know it's a relatively safe platform because they have to be using a school account to get in. They are being connected by 2 different educators. They've probably already, you've probably already approved Flipgrid's privacy policy and everything in your school district. So you're using a tool that you already know is safe for your kids to use.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's the same thing. Like we see the power as educators through these connections, and we need to start giving that connection to our students because it's going to be part of their lives no matter what career they're in, and we need to help them do it appropriately. And I think doing this stuff in the classroom helps with that, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This is, a lot of people say it's preparing them for the future, and it's also preparing them for the now.
Yeah. And I think one little like extra like tidbit I want to give here is I see it on Twitter. I see things like if you're a teacher and you're not on Twitter, you're missing out and you need to get on Twitter. And I feel so bad when I see people say stuff like that because I don't think all of the tools are for everybody. Right? Like I don't know if I could get on and start doing Passoscope EDU. Like I'm going to keep checking it out, but that might not be. The live video thing just might not be for me, right? Yeah. And we have a Facebook group for the show, and there's a lot of exciting stuff getting shared in there. But I'm struggling with it. Like I don't love Facebook as a learning platform, but other people do, right? And I love Twitter. Been on it for whatever, like 10 years now, and I just love using Twitter. I think the important part is finding your area to crowdsource those solutions, to connect with a PLN, but finding one that works for you, that's comfortable for you, and that you're getting a benefit from.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the ones that people are already on, that's like a great place to start, Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Find those places that you're comfortable with where there are people to connect with. So, and when you connect, duct tapers, you've got to connect with Sarah, the teacher, right?
I look forward to that. I do.
Yeah. All right. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for being on today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to it for a while. It was an honor having you on. I think everybody's going to run out and get on EduMatch and follow Sarah the teacher online and all that good stuff, and check out Periscope and check out Voxer and all those good things. And you're going to be getting all kinds of connections from some duct tapers, I hope.
Oh, cool. I can't wait. I cannot wait. So thank you so much for having me on. This was amazing. And, I'm a longtime listener of your show. So thanks for all you do. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Such an honor having Sarah on the show. She does amazing work, and I'm so happy to finally get to shine a spotlight on her for that. This is normally the time for hearing from you, the duct tapers, but since we're going to be doing a lot of that in 2 weeks, I'm going to skip it today and head outside to play in the backyard with my kids. Speaking of that episode in 2 weeks, please remember to head to eduducttape.com/season2share. That's eduducttape.com/the-word-season, the number 2, and the word share. And as always, that link will be in the show notes, but please head there to share an educational duct tape success story to be featured in the June 17th episode. You have until June 15th to submit one. Finally, I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you are healthy. I hope, for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, you have a relaxing summer. And I hope that you remember to speak up as an anti-racist. It is our duty as people to let all people know that we value everyone. And during these trying times, especially the lives of Black men, women, and children. Thanks for all that you do as a listener, as a lifelong learner, as an educator. Have a great day, and I will see you in a fortnight.
Thank you for listening to the Educational Duct Tape Podcast. Please visit eduducttape.com to join the discussion, share possible topics, inquire about being a guest, or contact Jake. And remember, duct is spelled with a T, not a quack quack K.